Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So today, dear devotees, we are going to read one verse from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. This is the 10th canto, 3rd chapter, verse number 25th. And Mother Devakī, the divine mother of the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna, is offering prayers to her own son, who has appeared to her as her child in the jail of King Kansa, who is very wicked. And this divine child, Shri Krishna, who has appeared as the son of Vasudev Maharaj and Mother Devakī, he has appeared in a very divine form, with beautiful lotus eyes, effulgent complexion like a rain-filled cloud. He has got beautiful forearms. He's wearing a golden armor, golden crown. In his four hands, he is holding the powerful mace weapon, the Sudarshan Chakra weapon, and in two hands, he is holding the conch shell that gives fearlessness to the devotees, and is holding the beautiful lotus flower, the emblem of all beauty. Krishna, as a newborn child, is wearing a very beautiful, effulgent yellow dhoti called Pitambar Vastra. And his divine body is decorated with beautiful ornaments like the Kaustubh Mani. He's looking very beautiful. And Mother Devakī is offering prayers. So this is verse number 25. Mother Devakī is saying, Nashte loke dviprarar dhavasane mahabhutesh adi bhutam gateshu vyakte vyaktam kalavegena yate bhavane kah shishyate shesha samnyaha. We'll read the translation and the purport. Let's read the word-to-word meaning also. Nashte means after the annihilation of this world, loke, of the entire cosmic manifestation, dvi prarardha avasane, after millions and millions of years, after the life of Lord Brahma, mahabhuteshu, when the 5 primary elements, earth, water, fire, air, and ether, Ādi bhutam gateshu, enter within the subtle elements of sense perception, vyakte, when everything manifested, avyaktam, into the unmanifested, kala vegena, by the force of time, yate, enters bhavan, your lordship. Eka, only one, shishyate, remains, ashesha samadnyaha, the same one with different names. Translation and purport by our beloved founder Acharya, His Divine Grace, Abhay Charanarvinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada. Translation. After millions of years, at the time of cosmic annihilation, when everything manifested and unmanifested is annihilated by the force of time, the 5 gross elements enter into the subtle conception, and the manifested categories enter into the unmanifested substance. At that time, you alone remain, and you are known as Ananta Sheshnag. Purport. At the time of annihilation, the 5 gross elements, earth, water, fire, air, and ether, enter into the mind, intelligence, and false ego, ahankar, and the entire cosmic manifestation enters into the spiritual energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who alone remains as the origin of everything. The Lord is therefore known as Shesha Nag, as Adi Purush, and many other names. Devakī therefore prayed. So what is the prayer of Mother Devakī? Srila Prabhupada expands upon the prayer of Mother Devakī. Quote, after many millions of years, when Lord Brahma comes to the end of his life, the annihilation of the cosmic manifestation takes place. At that time, the 5 elements, namely earth, water, fire, air, and ether, enter into the Mahat Tattva. The Mahat Tattva again enters by the force of time, Kala Vegena. By the force of time, the Mahat Tattva enters into the non-manifested total material energy. The total material energy enters into the energetic Pradhan, and the Pradhan enters into you. Therefore, after the annihilation of the whole cosmic manifestation, you alone remain with your transcendental name, form, quality, and paraphernalia. My Lord, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you because you are the director of the unmanifested total energy and the ultimate reservoir of the material nature. My Lord, the whole cosmic manifestation is under the influence of time, beginning from the moment up to the duration of the year. All act under your direction. You are the original director of everything and the reservoir of all potent energies. Unquote. Hare Krishna. I'm so sorry, I forgot to share my screen. I thought I was sharing my screen. My apologies. So dear devotees, we read a very beautiful prayer from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam that was offered by the Divine Mother of the Supreme Lord, Shri Krishna. And she's praying that this entire world that we see, the entire earth planet, with all its countries, all its peoples, the entire solar system, the entire Milky Way, the entire universe, and this is just one universe. According to our Vedic scriptures, there are millions of such universes. There are millions of such universes. And all of them are ultimately coming from Lord Vishnu, who comes from Mula Sankarshan, who comes from Lord Balram, who comes from Lord Krishna. Therefore, Krishna is called Ādi Purush. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. Krishna is the cause of all causes. The verse and the purport was a little technical, but we don't have to get overwhelmed by it. In simple terms, this material world on a gross level is made up of 5 elements. Earth, which includes the soil, the metals, wood, minerals, everything that is contained in the earth. So earth, water, fire, air, and subtler than air is called ether, which we can understand as the sky or the electromagnetic waves and other subtle elements that exists in the space. So these are these 5 gross elements: earth, water, fire, air, and ether. And then there are 3 subtle elements: mind, intelligence, and false ego. And the creation takes place from subtle to gross. Creation takes place from subtle to gross. False ego is the subtlest element. Then comes intelligence. Then comes mind. Then comes the ether. Then comes air. Then fire. Then water. And finally earth. So creation takes place from the subtle element to the gross elements. And destruction at the end of the life of Lord Brahma takes place in the reverse order. It takes place from the gross to the subtle. And everything, all the subtle energies, they ultimately merge into Krishna. All the material substance together is called Mahat Tattva. You remove Kal from that, it becomes Pradhan in a totally unmanifested state. The entire material energy in an unmanifested state is called Pradhan, which ultimately enters into Lord Mahavishnu. and becomes unmanifest until there is creation again. And when the creation takes place again, from Lord Mahavishnu comes Pradhan. Pradhan is all the material, gross and subtle elements in an inactive form. Then by the glance of Lord Mahavishnu, the living entities, which means all of us, are impregnated into the Pradhan. And the Pradhan, which is an inert material substance, is activated by the force of time. So Mahavishnu infuses time or imposes the influence of time on Pradhan. And then Pradhan becomes Mahat Tattva. And from Mahat Tattva, the creation takes place. This is called primary creation. And then from Garbhodakshay Vishnu comes Lord Brahma, who is the secondary creator. He takes the earth, water, fire, air, ether and creates different planets, different trees, different species of life. So that is secondary creation. It is done by Lord Brahma. So this is creation, and when Lord Brahma dies, everything is again annihilated. So this creation, annihilation, creation, maintenance, annihilation is done by Lord Krishna, but not directly, through his 3 Guna avatars. Lord Brahma, Lord Vishnu and Lord Shiva. Through these 3 incarnations of Lord Krishna, the creation, Lord Brahma, the maintenance, Lord Vishnu, and the annihilation, Lord Shiva, is performed. Krishna himself is standing under the Kalpavriksha tree in Goloka Vrindavan with Srimati Radharani on his left side and playing his beautiful flute in the presence of all the gopis. Divyad Vrindaranya Kalpadrumada Śrīmad Ratnagara Simhasanasthau Śrīmad Radha Śrīla Govinda Devo Preshta Libhi Sevyamano Smarami. Krishna personally has nothing to do with this creation, maintenance and annihilation. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami explains in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita that Divyad Vrindaranya Kalpadru. There is a Divya Vrindarana. There is a beautiful forest. Aranya means forest. There is a beautiful forest of Vrindavan in the spiritual realm. Divyad Vrindaranya Kalpadrumadha. And under a Kalpavriksha tree, all the trees in Golok Vrindavan are desire fulfilling trees. They are not ordinary trees. They are desire fulfilling trees. And under such a divine desire fulfilling tree, Śrīmad Ratnagara Simhasanastho, on a beautiful throne made up of desire fulfilling gems called Chintamani, are seated Shri Shri Radha Shrila Govinda Devo Preshthalibi Sevya Manav Smarami. Radha and Govinda, Radha Murlidhar, are sitting on a beautiful throne under a Kalpavriksha tree in Golok Vrindavan, and Preshthalibi Sevya Manav Smarami. We should remember Shri Shri Radha Govinda, Shri Shri Radha Murlidhar, they are being served by their beloved devotees, the gopis. The gopis are eternally serving Radha Govinda. This is the eternal reality, my dear friends. But because we want to enjoy separately from Krishna, we come to this material world. This material world is created for the fulfillment of our selfish desires. So Krishna is not directly involved in this creation, maintenance, destruction. His parts, his expansions like Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh, they take care of it. But Krishna himself is enjoying in the spiritual world with his pure devotees, the eternally liberated devotees, Nitya Siddhas. But Krishna loves all of us, my dear friends. And therefore, although Krishna directly has nothing to do with this material world, out of his love for us, he comes into this material world in his original form as Krishna to show us where we are from, where we belong, and where real happiness is. Krishna comes on this earth planet and shows his own eternal pastimes that take place in Golok Vrindavan on this earth planet. And he did that 5,000 years ago. And those who were intelligent, they developed devotion for Radha and Krishna and made their lives perfect. But there were many, many of us who did not. And for our sake, Krishna again came to teach us as Acharya, as our spiritual preceptor. Krishna came in the form of Shri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Krishna came along with Śrīmati Radharani. Does anyone know what is the name of Śrīmati Radharani when she comes in Gaura Leela? Who is she?
Gadadhar, Śrī Gadādhara.
Yes, that is correct. Śrī Gadādhara Pandit. And does anyone know when was the divine appearance day of Śrī Gadādhara Pandit?
Yesterday it was closing.
Yes, yesterday. So yesterday was the divine appearance day of Śrī Gadādhara Pandit. So why don't we speak a few words about Gadādhara Pandit? So Krishna comes to teach us as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and his beloved consort Srimati Radhika Rani, she comes as Gadādhara Pandit. And yesterday was Gadādhara Pandit appearance day. Gadādhara Pandit, there is so much to speak about Gadādhara Pandit. Literally, we could speak till 10 a.m. like our Prabhuji suggested. But I will spare you that torture. But there is so much to speak about Gadādhara Pandit. But I will just try to narrate very quickly one pastime because we have only 11 minutes left. Gadādhara Pandit, from his childhood, being Śrīmati Radharani, he was not interested in any sense gratification. He was a brahmachari from his childhood. And he was in the same grade, same class as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. At that time, he was called Nimai. So Nimai and Gadādhar were in the same school, same class. And so was Mukunda, another boy. Mukunda is one of the gopis in Golok Vrindavan, an eternal Sakhi of Śrīmati Radharani, eternal girlfriend of Śrīmati Radharani. So that eternal girlfriend of Śrīmati Radharani came as Mukunda, Śrīmati Radharani came as Gadādhar, and Lord Krishna came as Nimai. And they are all in the same class. And the school is, the teacher is Gangadas Pandit. They are learning together. And Gadādhar Pandit is very, very serious, very sober, very grave. He has a lot of gravity and he's full of devotion for Krishna because he's Śrīmati Radharani. But he has not met his guru yet. And he's searching for a guru because we all need a spiritual master, a spiritual preceptor who can guide us back to Krishna. He was looking, searching for a guru. At that time, a very great personality came to the town. The town is called Nadia. In the town of Nadia, a very great devotee came. His name was Pundarik Vidyanidhi. And he is from the same village as Mukunda. So Mukunda knows him to be a great devotee. So one day in school, Mukunda tells Gadādhar, Gadādhar, do you know a very great devotee has come from my ancestral village? His name is Pundarik Vidyanidhi. He is the abode of devotion for Krishna. Every day he worships Krishna with the best ingredients that he can find. The best fruits in the market, the most expensive fruits in the market, he will go and buy them. The best exotic flowers he will go and buy. The most fragrant perfumed oils he will buy. And with that, he will worship Krishna with a lot of opulence. He will never take bath in Ganga. Now this town of Nadia was located right on the bank of Mother Ganga, river Ganga, the Ganges. Everyone would take bath in the river Ganga except Pundarik Vidyanidhi. Pundarik Vidyanidhi never bathed in the Ganga. Why? Because he considered Ganga to be so holy, so pure. He would think, oh, how can I step inside Ganga? How can I put my feet into Ganga? No. Ganga Devi is so pure. I must worship her. So he would never bathe in the Ganga. He would stand at a distance and offer arti, offer puja to Ganga Devi. So Mukunda is describing all this about Pundarik Vidyanidhi to his friend Gadādhar. He said, Gadādhar, he has come to town. Actually, Pundarik Vidyanidhi doesn't live in this village. He lives somewhere in Bangladesh, but he has come to Nadia for a few days. He has a house here also. He's very rich. He has got many houses. He has one house, vacation home in Nadia, and he has come to his vacation home. So why don't we go and meet him? I know him. I want you to meet him. He's a great devotee. You are searching for a guru. I think you should meet Pundarik Vidyanidhi. Who knows what happens? So please come with me. Gadādhar Pandit said, yes, if you are saying that he's such a great devotee, why not? Let's go. I would like to have his darshan. I would love to meet him. So Mukunda takes Gadadhar and they both go to the house of Pundarik Vidyanidhi. And what do they see? They see that Pundarik Vidyanidhi is sitting on a very beautiful sofa. This sofa has got the best cushions and the best cover. The cover is very beautiful white, like the foam on top of milk. It's pure white, the cushions. And there are many cushions all around him, so he can sit comfortably. Sometimes he's leaning on one cushion, sometimes he's leaning on another cushion, sometimes he's doing this, sometimes he's doing this. It's a very comfortable sofa that he's sitting. It's like a recliner. And he has got a footstool with very soft foam on it. And he's putting his feet on that and sitting and relaxing. And there is one servant who is holding a huge mirror in front of Pundarik Vidyanidhi. So Pundarik Vidyanidhi can all the time look at himself. And sometimes Pundarik Vidyanidhi looks at himself in the mirror. He adjusts his long, beautiful hair. And there is a servant who has put fragrant oil on the hair of Pundarik Vidyanidhi. And there is another servant holding a comb. And every now and then, although his hair is neatly combed, Pundarik Vidyanidhi adjusts his hair like that. And then he looks at his kurta. He's wearing a very expensive silk kurta with beautiful embroidery. Like our Ādi Purush Prabhu is stitching clothes there. So he had his personal tailors who traveled with him, and every day they would stitch fresh clothes. He would not repeat his clothes. Once he wore it, it became Mahaprasad. He would give it away. He was so fabulously rich, Pundarik Vidyanidhi. And hand embroidered beautiful kurta and dhoti he was wearing, and he used to adjust his kurta every now and then, just so that he looks very beautiful. And then he had beautiful, fresh, fragrant flower garlands that he wore. And every few minutes, the servants would come and take the old garland and put a fresh one. He liked new garlands every few minutes. In front of him was a table on which beautiful beverages, beautiful drinks were arranged. Nice sharbats, flavored coconut water, buttermilk, different flavors of buttermilk, different beverages were kept before him, and different laddus were kept. Every time he wanted to have something sweet, he would just pick and eat one nice rasgulla or gulab jam or sandesh, barfi. He was enjoying. And in another bowl, beautiful, fragrant, sweet pans were kept. Different flavors pans. He would enjoy eating pan. And every now and then, he would pop a pan in his mouth and munch on it, chew on it, and enjoy the flavor of the pan. He was really enjoying. And then there were two servants standing on both sides. What is pan? Pan is a mouth freshener that is made from betel leaves, and it has got very tasty, sweet, fragrant spices in it. Like spices made from the petals of a rose, soaked in sugar syrup, and fennel seeds, and cardamom, and other things. It's very tasty, very sweet, and very fragrant. It's a mouth freshener and also a digestive. So after eating a nice meal, you chew on a pan. We offer pan to the deities also, to Radha Murlidhar. So he was enjoying eating pan. And on both sides, behind him, behind Pundarik Vidyanidhi, two servants were standing with fans, and they were fanning him. Continuously, they were fanning him. Other servants were engaged in bringing him nice foodstuffs. And he was sitting and looking at the mirror and enjoying. He seemed to be a completely extravagant sense gratifier, materialist. And here is a brahmachari, very simple brahmachari, Gadadhar, who has been brought by his friend Mukunda, and is sitting in the corner of that huge room in the house of Pundarik Vidyanidhi, sitting in a corner and looking at this Pundarik Vidyanidhi. What is this? He is so extravagant. He doesn't seem like a devotee at all. I mean, it's not like he's listening to kirtan. He's listening to some classical Indian music. It's not even kirtan. He was enjoying music. There were servants playing music for him, for his pleasure. Gadadhar was thinking, oh my God, what is this? He cannot be a devotee. And in his mind, Gadadhar thought, why did my friend Mukunda bring me here? It's such a waste of time. And sensing the thoughts of Gadadhar, Mukunda chanted one verse from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. Aho bakiyam stana kalakutam. Very beautiful verse from the third canto of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, where Uddhavji is glorifying Krishna, that Krishna is so merciful, even though Putana came to kill him by poisoning him, because she offered her breast milk, Krishna liberated her, destroyed all her sins, and made her his eternal mother in Golok Vrindavan, in the spiritual world. How merciful is Krishna? Someone comes to kill him, poison him, and Krishna gives that person eternal blissful life in the spiritual world. How merciful is Krishna? Mukunda, understanding Gadadhar is having doubts about Pundarik Vidyanidhi, just chanted this one verse glorifying Krishna in front of Pundarik Vidyanidhi. As soon as Pundarik Vidyanidhi heard that, he went into a fit of ecstasy. Krishna! Krishna! Krishna, you are so merciful. You are so merciful. He picked up those glasses of beverages, threw them. Krishna! Krishna! He kicked the stool in front of him. He kicked the table. He ripped apart the pillows on which he was resting. He threw the pan. He was everything. He started tearing his kurta. He started tearing his dhoti. Krishna, where are you, Krishna? His hair became disheveled. He became like a madman. Just hearing that verse glorifying Krishna from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, he was out of control. He fell on the floor, and for 6 hours he was in a fit of ecstasy. Krishna, 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 you are so merciful. Oh Krishna, ha Krishna, where are you, Krishna? When Gadadhar Pandit saw this, oh my God, hearing one verse of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, this Pundarik Vidyanidhi went mad. This was the state of Pundarik Vidyanidhi, and because he didn't want to be in this state where people will misunderstand him, he was trying to forget Krishna by enjoying with his senses and showing that he is not at all a devotee. Because every time he heard about Krishna, this would happen to him. He would go mad. So it's like the gopis. They are telling Uddhav, Uddhav, please tell us something by which we can forget this Krishna, because we cannot stop thinking of him. That was the state of mind of Pundarik Vidyanidhi. He was trying to forget Krishna because he just couldn't forget Krishna. We are trying to remember Krishna. And here is Pundarik Vidyanidhi. He is trying to present himself as a non-devotee. But hearing that one verse from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, his devotion was exhibited. Even though he didn't want, he was trying to suppress, but it came out. And Gadadhar Pandit understood that, oh, this Pundarik Vidyan is such a great devotee, but I committed an offense against him. I judged him. I thought he is not a devotee, and why did Mukunda bring me here to see the sense gratifier? Oh ho ho, I have committed such an offense against Pundarik Vidyanidhi. Now what should I do? So Gadadhar Pandit asks his friend Mukunda, Mukunda, this Pundarik Vidyanidhi indeed is a very great exalted devotee, but I misjudged him, and in my mind I criticized him. I saw faults in him. So what should I do now? My heart says that I should immediately accept him as my spiritual master. I should accept him as my guru. Is that okay? Mukunda said, that's a great idea. That's why I brought you here. You must. He is the right guru for you. So when Pundarik Vidyanidhi came out of his ecstasy, Gadadhar Pandit surrendered at his lotus feet, offered his life at his lotus feet, and said, my dear Pundarik Vidyanidhi, please forgive my offenses. I have realized you are such a great devotee. Will you kindly accept me as your student? And Pundarik Vidyanidhi was only too happy to accept Gadadhar Pandit as his student. And he received initiation from Shri Pundarik Vidyanidhi. This story teaches us few lessons. The first lesson is that if we really love our friends, we should bring them in the association of great devotees, like Mukunda did. That is number one. Number two, sometimes it may happen that we may misjudge a great person. I would like to ask all of you one question. So be ready to raise your hand and unmute. I heard this from my spiritual master, Srila Radhanath Swami Maharaj, in a lecture. You see, it is said that it is very difficult to understand the heart and the activities of a pure devotees. There is a verse called Vaishnavera Kriya Mudra Bhigyena Bhujaya. Even a very intelligent person cannot understand the activities of a pure devotee. Now, the question to all of you, Bhakti Center devotees, is why is it very difficult to understand the activities of a pure devotee of Krishna? Why?
Prabhuji, because we are not that so pure.
Because we are not so pure. Okay. Anything else? Why is it not possible to understand the activities of a pure devotee? Yes,
Hare
Bhima
Krishna,
Prabhu.
Prabhuji.
Ananya, go ahead.
Prabhuji, because we have a material viewpoint and we judge everyone based on that, but the pure devotees are not in this world. They are already in the spiritual world, so they see everything related to Krishna. And that's
Okay,
it.
that's very good. Very nicely explained. Very close. Bhima Prabhu, you wanted to say something?
Hari Bol. Wonderful lecture. Loved it when you were playing Gadadhar Pandit or Pudrini Vidyanidhi yelling out Krishna. You cannot judge a pure devotee because they are operating under Krishna's orders. They are doing and feeling and seeing whatever
Yes.
it is Krishna wants them to see. And as we cannot understand Krishna, we
Wow.
cannot understand a pure devotee. Haribol.
Perfect. Perfectly said. This is exactly what Srila Radhanath Swami Maharaj said. Maharaj said that Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santas Sadaiva Hridayeshu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Guna Swarupam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Krishna is Achintya. Achintya means Krishna is inconceivable. Krishna is beyond our understanding. And like Bhima Prabhu said, a pure devotee is a puppet in the hands of Krishna. A pure devotee is acting under the guidance of Krishna, and Krishna is inconceivable. Therefore, a pure devotee also is inconceivable. Therefore, we cannot understand a pure devotee. So the second lesson is very easy to misunderstand a pure devotee. Therefore, we should not judge pure devotees. Lesson number 3. If we offend a pure devotee, we must beg forgiveness and make sure that we don't repeat it and do whatever it takes to erase that offense, like Gadadhar Pandit did. He apologized to Pundarik Vidyanidhi and then offered his life at the lotus feet of Pundarik Vidyanidhi as a disciple. So these are some key lessons that we learn from this very short story that we discussed. Now I would like to open it up for questions. If there are any questions, you can please ask. Hare Krishna.
Okay, devotees, come on now. Ask a question. It has to be relevant.
In the chat.
Oh, okay.
Okay, let me look at the chat.
Ādi Gadādhara Prabhu, you see it?
Yes,
Not
I
up
imagine that Pundarik's devotion is still lesser than Lord Chaitanya's, and yet he cannot function in his daily life while remembering Krishna. Why is it that he couldn't be actively engaged in service, teach, etc., like Mahaprabhu, even though they both are in ecstasy ceaselessly? Thank you. That's a very nice, very intelligent question. So to understand this, we have to understand who Pundarik Vidyanidhi is. And our acharyas explain that anybody can guess who is Pundarik Vidyanidhi in Krishna Leela? In Krishna's pastimes, who is Pundarik Vidyanidhi?
Prabhuji Vrishabhanu Maharaj.
Yes, Pundarik Vidyanidhi is Vrishabhanu Maharaj. He is the father of Srimati Radharani. Now, as far as controlling the ecstasy is concerned, like Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did, Pundarik Vidyanidhi also tried. He also tried and he was engaged in service. You see, every evening after the sun would set and there was nobody on the banks of Ganga, everybody would leave. At that time, Pundarik Vidyanidhi would go when nobody was watching him and he would do Ganga Puja. He would offer Aarti to Ganga. That was his mode of worship. He used to do Ganga Puja. And also he was very charitable. He would give a lot of donations to the devotees and serve devotees. So Pundarik Vidyanidhi was engaged in many services, and he would also invite devotees for having nice discussions about Krishna Leela and Kirtan. So he was engaged and he tried his best to control the ecstasy. And but sometimes he couldn't. So he was very careful not to openly show his ecstasy. As far as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is concerned, at this point in the Leela, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is still showing himself as a student and he has not demonstrated his devotion yet. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will manifest himself as a devotee, especially if you read the Ante Leela of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, oh, Mahaprabhu is not able to control. In the daytime, when he hears Bhagavatam class from Gadadhar Pandit at Tota Gopinath in Jagannath Puri, he tries to control his ecstasy. But then same verses of Bhagavatam that he has heard from Gadadhar Pandit, he would come at night to Gambhira and sit down with Ramananda Rai and Swarup Damodar Goswami, and he would relish the deeper meaning of those verses. Mahaprabhu would go crazy. He would go completely in a divine maddened state. He would go in ecstasy. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, even he could not. So both of them are very exalted devotees. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in the mood of Srimati Radharani, and Pundarik Vidyanidhi is Radharani's father. His Radharani's father, Vishabhanu Maharaj. And sometimes they are able to control their ecstasy, sometimes they are not. Srila Prabhupada also, sometimes he was able to control his ecstasy most of the times. But like when he came to Atlanta, do you know, when Srila Prabhupada came to Atlanta in February 1975, and he was singing Parama Karuna Pahudui Jana, Srila Prabhupada became choked up with emotion and went into ecstasy. Similarly, in Gorakhpur, in North India, when Srila Prabhupada was singing Jai Radha Madhav before the Bhagavatam class, Srila Prabhupada went into ecstasy. He could not control. Streams of tears were flowing from his eyes. So sometimes a devotee is able to control, sometimes not. Is that okay? Okay, thank you. Okay, so I don't think there are any other questions. Does anyone else want to say something, make a comment or correction? Adi Purush.
Sorry. Hare Krishna. You can hear us okay?
Yes, now we can hear, Prabhu.
Yeah, you can hear now? Yeah. Fantastic class. We just appreciate the class, but also we appreciate the extreme joy and enthusiasm you had for glorifying Krishna, right? So thank you very much for being yourself. Your spiritual master is empowering you in a wonderful way. You're definitely exhibiting Radhanath Swami's grace. We had a question somebody asked me yesterday. A guest, a girl from India, and we had been reading about how you just mentioned Pundarik Ashram, he was giving charity, and she read the part about how Nanda Maharaj gave, thousands of cows in charity to the Brahmins. So her question was, well, what did the Brahmins do with all those cows? I mean, maybe it's an off-topic question, maybe not.
Actually, it's a very, very good question. Our Mahabharata clearly explains, and even Ramayana, it clearly explains. So there is one example in Ramayana when Vishwamitra Muni comes to meet Dasharath Maharaj. When Vishwamitra Muni comes to meet Dasharath Maharaj, Dasharath Maharaj immediately gets off the throne and hands over the whole kingdom to Vishwamitra Muni. From today, this kingdom is yours. So the sadhus, the Brahmins and the saints, they would accept the offering of the kings.
Right.
And they would give it back immediately. We accept it, but now you take it back. On our behalf, you rule. Right. And there is another example in Mahabharata when Maharaj Yudhishthir had to perform the Rajasuya Yajna. For the Rajasuya Yajna, you need a lot of wealth, a lot of gold to perform a sacrifice of that scale. So he needed a lot of gold. So he told his brothers, his 4 brothers, please go and get some wealth, collect some wealth. So Arjun went north to the Himalayas. And it is described in Mahabharata that as you start climbing up the Himalayas, there was almost like a small mountain of gold. And what was this mountain? When all these Brahmins and sadhus would get charity of gold from and cows and gold from these kings, the cows they would return, or they would give them to the Vaishyas, the merchant people. You take care of these cows. But the gold they would carry with them. And when they entered their hermitages in the Himalayas, before climbing, they would just toss those gold plates, just toss them. And there was a huge pile, almost like a hill of gold there. And Arjun went, it was all discarded gold by all these Brahmins and sadhus. And he just collected all that gold and brought it to Maharaj Yudhishthir to be used for the Rajasuya Yajna. And therefore Arjun got the name Dhananjay, one who won wealth. Dhan means wealth. So these Brahmins would just discard it or give it away for people to use. They would not keep it. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, this girl had it. Can you hear me still? The girl was, you know, in the Mayavad tradition, they say, "Oh, I cannot." You can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
She was saying, you know, many holy men, they say, I cannot take, I cannot accept, I will not touch money, you know. And Prabhupada told us, you know, if they offer, we will take it. We will collect as much as possible. It is appropriate, it's the duty of the Brahmins to ask for charity. And then, like you said, we give it back to society in the form of temples, in the form of literature, in the form of Krishna Prasad distribution, in the form of, you know, performing arts, graphic arts that illustrate the principles of scripture. So we are collecting, accepting, you know, but then it must be used properly and given back to society. We maintain ourselves as simply as possible with whatever portion we need. The Brahmins do collect donations, but it must, we have the, just like the government collects taxes. And then they use that to maintain the school system, maintain the maintenance of the roads and the, you know, the fire department and the police department and all those things, you know, so that society can function. They're collecting, but then giving it back. You know, we're not sure collecting. Bhima, what do you have to say there?
Very quick. Prabhu, I would just like to say that thank you for celebrating Gadadhar Pandit's appearance day and illustrating vis-a-vis obviously Leela, whereby we all of us, even myself, you know, will look at other people and say, well, you know, based on the cover of a book, am I coming through okay, or am I breaking up?
Yes, we can hear you nicely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll make this quick. We tend to, on the cover of a book or within just meeting a person or something like that, to judge them. It's almost instinctual, being a conditioned soul. And that Gadadhar Pandit, you know, obviously being Radharani, was thrown into by Yoga Maya this incident in order to illustrate for us all that we should check ourselves before, as soon as we have a judgment, and we all know what they feel like, a judgment of somebody based on externals, that we should check ourselves and understand that we never know that particular jiva's, that particular soul's relationship with Krishna, that this just might be a manifestation of a particular ras, etc., etc. So thank you once again for celebrating Gadadhar Pandit. It's such a sweet pastime, and a lesson for us all to learn. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Bhima Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Amarinda Prabhu tells me so many wonderful things about you. He remembers the Boston days.
we can judge negatively, or we can just be an illusion. So if you're hearing anything positive about me, it's because he's an illusion.
No.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Bhima Prabhu.
Did he tell you about the time I hit him upside the head with a bottle in a play?
No.
He was Nityananda and I was Madai. I was playing myself, Madai. And he was Hare Krishna, and I come up with a can made of sugar, but it looked like a real bottle. Nobody in the audience knew. There were like 200 people there with kids. And I go, Amarendra, the great speaker, bam, right up the side of his head. And he had a little blood too, because, you know, it was still a bottle, and it scattered. It sounded just like glass. And all the people screamed, and he actually turned to me. So like under his breath, when everybody was screaming, he said, Prabhu, that hurt. And I said, then that's Krishna's arrangement. You must have needed it. But yeah, he came out of it okay. Apparently, I knocked some sense into him. Hare Krishna, thank you very much for that.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Bhima Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
I have to echo what some of the other devotees have said. Your reenactment of the pastime of Pundarik Vidyanidhi was really wonderful. It's one of my favorite pastimes in our Bhakti tradition. I've always enjoyed it. And I think your telling was the best I've heard so far. Just the detail and enthusiasm that came with it was really splendid. But I did have a reflection. I can't remember when it was, but one class that I heard that recounted this pastime, it must have been a class glorifying Gadadhar Pandit. One of the big lessons and takeaways that was presented as part of the class, and which I've taken ever since, is that one of the key things that that pastime teaches us is that, again, we can't judge a book by its cover. We don't know who's a devotee and who isn't a devotee, and amongst the devotees, what level of devotee they are. We just don't have the clarity to see. And so, of course, we're called to not cause offenses to the devotees. And so if we don't know who's a devotee and not a devotee, how are we supposed to avoid offenses to the devotees? And the answer is by avoiding offenses to everyone and by being compassionate and kind to everyone, because we never know where people are. So that was one reflection I wanted to share. Thank you for a wonderful class, Prabhu.
That was such a beautiful reflection. Thank you so much for sharing that. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Would anyone else like to share, reflect? Maybe there was a point that they liked. Okay. Angelica.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for this class. It's so beautiful. I am just curious. I would like to hear more about the mood of Radharani's father, in a sense of like, yes, it's being said that he is Radharani's father, but what does it really exactly mean as a translation to his mood in Chaitanya's Leela?
Yes, very beautiful question. Thank you for asking that. So Pundarik Vidyanidhi is Vrishabhanu Maharaj, the father of Srimati Radharani. And in Vraj, there are two kings. There are two kings in Vrindavan. Munindra Vrindavandite Triloka Shoka Harini Prasanna Vaktra Pankaje Nikunja Bhuvilasini Vrajendra Bhanu Nandini Vrajendra Sunu Sangate Kadakarishyasi Hamam Kripa Kataksha Bhajanam. There are two Vrajendras, two kings in Vraj. One is Vrishabhanu Maharaj and one is Nanda Maharaj. And Krishna takes great pleasure in seeing his parents, and in fact all the Vrajvasis, dressed up very opulently, very nicely. If we read Śrīmad Bhāgavatam 10th canto, the Govardhan Leela, when Krishna tells the Vrajvasis, headed by Nanda Maharaj and all the others, how to perform Govardhan Puja, one important thing that Krishna asks all the Vrajvasis to do is wear your best clothes, your best jewels, put your best perfumes, and come for Govardhan Puja. Krishna likes it when his devotees dress nicely, especially in Vrindavan. Especially in Vrindavan, Krishna likes it when the devotees dress nicely. And this was Pundarik Vidyanidhi's mood. I must look good for Krishna's pleasure. So he would always look at himself, adjust, wear the blessed things, because he is Vrishabhanu Maharaj, he is the king. And he was in that mood that my Krishna will feel so happy when he sees me nicely dressed. So that was one way of understanding the mood of Pundarik Vidyanidhi. Is that helpful?
Yes, it's very helpful. Although I was more curious about not those details of him dressing himself, but more about his love towards his daughter and how that exhibits too.
His love towards his daughter exhibited by him giving initiation to Radharani, who is Gadadhar Pandit. Because the greatest love in this world is spiritual love. Because the love of a father towards a child is on the level of the body and mind. But the love of the spiritual father, that is spiritual master, is towards the body, towards the mind, and most importantly, towards the soul. Therefore, the greatest act of love in this world is the love of a guru, of a spiritual master towards the disciple, because the guru is agreeing to take all the karma, all the sins of the disciple upon himself or herself as guru for their benefit. And Pundarik Vidyanidhi played that role. He exhibited the greatest love, that my dear Radharani, my dear Gadadhar, I take responsibility for you, for your protection on the level of body, mind, and soul.